Hello, team. A belated match report for Ipswich FC. Last week was a very hectic week for me, with work and so forth. So here we are. Obviously, on the day I was not present. However, we managed to get a 2-0 win over Ipswich. Apart from some very silly passes on our behalf, we didn't really have our goal threatened too much. Their left winger looked particularly helpful in the first half. But Riley with another predatory strike from the edge of the box, and Luca with a close in finish into the roof of the net saw us get our two goals and move through. A quick glance at the stats. I don't actually think these stats are particularly revealing, if I'm completely honest. It certainly doesn't seem to reflect the ebb and flow of the game. Now, I'm going to work off the criteria that we are allocated in the match review. I know that on the day, the goal that we were given was to get to the ball to the wingers one on one. I think that was very much just a reaction that we had Football Queensland present. So it was just easier to, really dumb it down, and get the ticks in the boxes so that they'd be happy. And we can get back to doing useful football things and making you guys better footballers as opposed to ticking boxes in the future. So, in terms of our key points, managing transitional moments and building up, they're the two big focuses for us in most of our games, especially in these ones. Now, in terms of transitional moments, I did have some selected items which I wanted to cover. I thought we did manage both of these well. That's probably not surprising. I don't know that Ipswich really counters the most rigorous test of us as a team, if I'm completely honest. But in terms of transitional moments, so 11:41. So this is fairly on. I was really happy with how we started the game, actually. I thought we were moving the ball in between those lines really well. We can talk more about that when we get there. But here we are. We've got the ball. Now it's a throw in deep. One of the consequences of us playing the ball to the wingers to try to create one-on-ones a lot was we ended up winning a lot of throw-ins. You can see the game is extremely congested. The whole game it's not even in a quarter of the pitch. It's almost in 1/6 of the pitch, which is fine. We do need to work on our marking a tiny bit. One thing I wanted to highlight here, was we've literally got we've got three of our backline not really doing a whole lot. Someone needs to be marking this guy so we can have, instead of what we have there, we have a situation where we have one here, and one here. We don't need three people to track back and cover those runners. But in any case, if we play it through, ball goes in long. I'm just going to turn the volume on for my benefit more than anything else. Goes out again. Oh, 11:41. Okay, so Will's on the ball now. This is effectively a cross, but one thing I wanted to point out, and this is what he does. This is one of the dramas of leaving their striker. Remember, we talk about not letting their strikers turn and face. Some of the teams have very strong strikers, and we give them this much time, they will cause us some problems. So the ball's just going to be lobbed out. They manage to turn and face. Now we've got a problem because this guy's got a drop. Griggsy coming across in cover, gets outpaced, manages to get the ball. Now he goes over. One thing I needed to point out here, now Zachy, you were not particularly well, I know, but you need to get goal side of your player earlier. If you are not goal side, you are not in the game. If you get goal side, you can push him wide. But if you're on his outside, you're very limited in what you can do. What that means is for them, the fact that you're there, it opens up all these passing lanes. All these passing lanes here are open and available. Whereas if you're goal side, the passing lanes he has to use force them away from the goal, and that's what we want. Okay, so we'll let it roll through, plays him through. Zachy responds, and we manage to dig ourselves out. If we go forward to 12:46, so once again, there's a pattern. A lot of this comes from us not respecting the ball enough when we're attacked. We're still forcing the ball a bit more than what we need to. So we're now going to go now. Now so Will's on the ball. This is an attacking transition. So Will manages to turn. finds Griggsy, and what's going to happen is the ball's going to get moved laterally, okay, out to the left. So he's going to move it there. Turns now. In this situation, we have to ask ourselves, Mael is not blessed with enormous speed for a left winger. And what that means is that if we go long, there's every likelihood he's going to lose that foot race. We do have players who can support the attack. My position in this situation would be that the better option would be to pass here. Riley can then come onto the ball, in which time Mayal can stretch them a little bit wider or even go further forward. But from 60 metres out, Mayal's not outrunning all of their defenders on the dribble. It's as simple as that. So my preference would be to build up and we can use Riley and we can open up the space. We've also got Luke out here who can overlap. So we're just going to close that and see how we go now. This is not too bad of a ball, but you can clearly see Mail's never going to have the pace to win that. And the ball goes back. Now that's frustrating because that's a really good attacking opportunity from the break and from transition, but it was just a really, it was the wrong pass for the player in question. Now we're going to go to 14-11. Notice the difference with that pass is that was a very central pass. So we were kicking into the middle, which is where everyone converges for. If we move forward to 14-11, this is a little different. So now we get the ball to Will, and Will's going to get the opportunity to turn. Now, in this situation, notice defenders are, as a general rule, going to be interested in covering off. So their runs are generally going to be trying to cover and protect the middle because that's where the goals are. So even this guy's going to be wanting to drift inwards. So the fact that we put the ball into a position where we can explore width brings Danny into the game. Even so, I think the pass is a little bit too heavy. I can completely understand. Will didn't have a hell of a lot of options here because he's basically got 7 players all in a position to box the ball. But it's a much better weighted pass. Danny pulls in. Now, what we can also identify is this guy's probably not really quick either. Danny does a good job of winning the ball. Now, you see, even if Danny wins this, he's got 3 defenders to beat. A ball cut back to Mayel or Riley in support is a much better option. So, see, we've retained possession. So, if Danny can win the ball and effect a pass back to one of these players, then we can do something with respect to the goal. Instead, Danny manages to win a corner, next best thing. So we've made something of that. Go to 15-14. This was the goal. We'll highlight this because I consider this a transitional moment because the ball bibbly bobbling around a whole lot. Oop, gone a little bit too far back, haven't I? So we'll go back to here. So Zach brings the ball down now. Now, the thing I like about this is there was an earlier cross, which I had given thought to highlighting, but I'm trying to keep these brief if I can. But what's good in this situation is we've got 2 players in possession and they're player on player with the people who are marking them. So getting across in this fashion, especially if it's low, flat, and well directed, is going to put the opposition under duress. So that's not so bad. We're picking up as well, so we haven't totally lost our shape. So the ball goes in, he drops it back, and Riley, bang, walks onto it. Does take a deflection, which probably didn't help the goalkeeper, but it was still a well-placed goal and probably going to at least trouble the goalkeeper either way. So we'll now move. This is Look, I'm going to go to 17-42 to highlight another good decision, and then I'm going to go back to a press win. So this is 17-42. Okay, so Will's on the ball, finds Ollie. Hang on, what have I done here? Oh, okay. I get it. I just got a little bit past what I want to do. So we'll just let it roll. So the ball's here, Griggsy's onto it. Then we go one further forward. Okay, now this is the moment I wanted to capture. So Will's on the ball. First thing he does is face forward to see what he can do. Now, this is what we need to be making more good decisions of, okay? So there's not really a hell of a lot happening. He does have Danny. Danny's got three defenders, and once again, it's a big ask to ask him to outspeed all those defenders. So what Will does, okay, so he's weighing up the long ball, but he realizes it's a really low percentage play. So what he does is he cuts back and looks to link up. So remember we talk about playing in between the lines, and I'm going to start to reintroduce this concept because we're starting to get to build up. They're pretty broken up through the middle. So these are basically the three lines: back, midfield, and the strikers. So what we're looking for are players who we can find in between these lines. Okay. Griggsy is presenting himself really well. I think I'm not sure who that is, but I think it might. I'm not sure who it is. I can't tell. But they're pointing to Griggsy. So pass it over to Griggsy. That's where the width is. We do have Danny up in the line, but once again, he's got a 4-on-1. And then I think it might be Riley over here. So what Will does is he correctly counts the numbers, finds Griggsy, goes into the middle. Look, if I'm honest there, Griggsy, I reckon the better option was to come wide to go to the left because then we can link up with the midfield. There's an overlap, a 2-on-1, and then we can bring Mayal into the game. But nonetheless, I like the way that Will has created that opportunity. We probably just needed to find a different attacking option because kicking to Danny when he's outnumbered, probably not doing him a hell of a lot of favors. Now we're going to go to 1711. I just wanted to dwell a little bit on this because this is actually, I've got to go back a little bit because this actually talks about our press when we look to set up that one-for-one press. Now, it's something that I think that I plan to use against the gap next Sunday. So you can see effectively what we're doing if we number them up. So Danny's in the middle, we're here, we're here, we're here. So what we're trying to do is man up one for one in the press. I might even actually take it back a little bit more to see if that will describe it just a little bit better. Okay, so here's where we are. This looks a little better. So the goalkeeper's just released the ball. This bloke's here. So these guys are out. We force them to go left. Danny's probably a fraction out of position. But Danny's up, Mayel's here, left, and we've stepped up there. So we've got basically man for man in the press there. And what we managed to do, because the 10 has stepped up to be involved in the press, this shows it particularly well. So you can see Danny is on the inside. Now he's shut the goalkeeper out. And we've got there, Mayel's covering over here. So we've basically shut them in. They cannot get out of this without taking a risk. They don't want to go back to the goalkeeper because then he's got the goalkeeper covered. We've got the midfielder who's dropping back to try to help out, but we've got him covered and we can apply pressure to the ball. Mayel's in the middle. We can see over here, this guy's dropping back and in there, which is just one of the consequences that we can end up if they want to do that. But if we can position ourselves, we can shut that out. If we play it, they try the pass, we cut it out, and then we create. Now, this is a really good opportunity for Danny. If I'm completely honest, I would expect Danny to score in this position. In this case, it wasn't to be, but in any case, really, really good work with the press, particularly with the man-to-man press. The man-to-man press being where the 10 steps up, and of course, then the 8 has to step up, which would probably mean the 6 is going to have two midfielders, and the central defenders just have to work a little bit harder. Okay, so we'll reduce that, and we'll come back to the next phase that we're going to go through is build up. Okay, I thought that some of the build up that we played through this game was really, really good. I mean, it's a little bit deceptive because look, I think these guys, they're a bit weaker than when we played them earlier in the season, if I'm completely honest. But nonetheless, win to the win, we outplayed them. Like I said, other than a couple of really silly options, where we basically passed it to their striker and said, "Here you go, mate, have a pop." So we can see our lines, forward lines basically being sucked back in. So what we're trying to find is because we're in possession, we're trying to find these spaces. We're trying to find spaces where we've got players in between the lines. All right. And something that we do as we play through, plays up, plays back, steps in and then significantly once again, because they're all trying to keep these straight lines. They're all trying to keep these straight lines and keep organized. Back line, midfield line, front line. Not happy with like getting the game back line. Like honestly, why are we languishing in our own half? This is bullshit. That's some bullshit right there. Um, get into our own half. Someone be with this guy to support the attack because we're asking our attackers to do a lot. But nonetheless, we've got one player in between the line, two players in between the line, and that creates passing opportunities for us to exploit, which we do. And then Griggsy's there, gets chopped down a little bit, which is not ideal. But once again, if our backs are further forward, then we can cut them out, which is really good. So 9:49. Now this is the next bit. Now this is an example quite like this. Now this goes to pace because I think what we need to do in this case, Luke's fed the ball down to Mael. Mael is going to grab the ball, turn. Now he's got this guy herring into him. But now the reality is, if we're going to keep this alive and make this into an attacking opportunity, there's a few options. One is going to be to for Danny to drop in. We've got I'm not sure who that is. Might be Francis, I think. So Francis there. Now here's the trick. The trick is you're going to dribble the ball for a little bit, but the play is going to be to move the ball because you're not going to outrun this guy. This guy's got you skinned for pace. So we move to there, we find Danny. That then creates options for Danny to play the ball to you, who continues their run. This guy's going to have to make a decision. Maybe Danny can turn out, okay, and he can find passes in this direction to allow us to go forward, okay, but we need to wait to see how it evolves. So it comes forward now. In this situation, if we go to Danny, you're 75 meters away from goal. You're not going to outstrip this guy for pace, so you've got to move the ball, okay, and there are passing options. Instead, we let him trample over the top of you. Shuts down the attack. So we need to be mindful of what we've got up front in terms of speed, because at the moment we're asking way too much of our wingers in terms of what they do when they're on the ball. So in that situation, to me, it's a matter of Mael, you look for Danny, and then we build up and we play through them. Now 10:22. There we go. Now this is a similar example. Plays the ball out. All right. So now one thing I wanted to point out in this situation is so Max is here, we've got Zach there, we've got him, we've got Riley there. If you drop in here, Zachy, then you can receive the ball. It gives Max an additional pass because Max can easily pass to you. You can then pass to Luke, and then we open up the left-hand side of the field. Okay. Um, as it is, Max has identified a pass where Riley's dropping in, and he's dropping in to receive the ball once again in between the lines. Puts a bit of pressure on him because he's got one of these African boys on his back, but we're quite broken, not particularly structured. Comes in, receives the ball, and that's just going to allow him to bring Zachy in over on the far side with Zachy with a run. So love the way that we're passing, finding space, moving the ball. We are forgetting our width a tiny bit, so that's something for us to think about. And then we go to 18, and this is the last on this bullet point that I wanted to talk about. Because on the whole, it was a good game. I'm not going to talk too much about one. I'm not going to talk at all about the second half because it was a bit shit, really. We just kind of sat blokes in behind the ball, tried to hit them on the break, almost did a couple of times. Okay, so in this situation, where are we? 18, 16. Yeah. So Danny's on the ball. You can see the lines forming up. Okay, so we're needing to find the space. Jump, jump, jump. But once again, we've got players making themselves available in between these lines, which is really good. Really good. I'd prefer to see us being more progressive as the backs rather than just sort of sitting way back. With these guys, I think we'll get away with it, but when we're playing the better teams in this comp, so Danny goes all the way back to Zach. Zach moves the ball. So this is better width. This is better finding width. And we end up finding an option with Mail bursting through, and he manages to find a shot. But once again, got the ball. Now the defender, and this is a good example of defending, the defender's trying to force you wide, and he's managed to do that. Cutting back onto your right hand side, onto your right foot's probably not going to help a lot because that's not your strongest foot. Ends up being a shot. So in those situations, I mean, you can't blame a striker for having a crack at the shot, but it could have been that if we could have dropped it back, we could have then found other people coming through that may have had a better shot. But I like the way that we use the width in that situation. So, covering managing transitional moments, we did a much better job of that. I do look at, and I suspect it may have been an instructional thing for the backs to play well back, um, to eliminate those sort of transitional moments. But I also think that we were against, I don't consider their strikers to be especially strong, if I'm completely honest. And if we're playing North Lakes with what is it, Mason, the young bloke who wears the fancy bright boots. If we play Samford or also Lions, they've got some real pace up front that could end up getting us into a little bit of a pickle. Just having so in attack, I've got a couple more bits. There are two bits that I wanted to look at, basically. One, and this is an example of where a longer ball works well with Mayel, but I wanted to talk about why it's different. Okay. So in this situation, we'll notice Mayel is here. He's offside, but that's beside the point. Not here. So that means he's good 30, 40, so 35 meters, let's call it, more advanced. But notice he's in line with the defender and he's wide. Okay. And more the point, he's already got the drop on his defender. He's between his defender and the ball. So this works a lot better because you're not expecting him to just win an out and out foot race. We've stacked it in his favor. The defender misses it. Now, unfortunately, it's actually a pretty decent call by the official, if I'm honest. Don't often like giving those boys too much credit, but it's a pretty decent call because he was definitely offside. But you can see if that ball goes through, then Mail can drive in and they're in all sorts of trouble. Finally, I just wanted to have a talk about a free kick that we took in the second half. Now, it's a set ball, okay? Like we have got heaps and heaps and heaps of room and heaps of pace. We're like we're 50 meters away from the goal. So in this situation, to me, the free kick's here. Zach, get here. Luke, get over here into all that space. And quite frankly, we just pass it. And by the time they get onto the ball, we're going to have opened up the width, and then we can advance the ball. We can get it to Mael. We can get a deep cross in. But I just think this is a really bit of I think it's a bit of a bullshit use of possession. So let's do better. I mean, if we're closer, if we've got that ball somewhere here, okay, that's a different story. So if we're 30 meters out, then we can get it in with some accuracy. But I'm a big believer in the depth that Zach Mason has on his boot, but not kicking the bloody thing damn near 60 meters and trying to expect a good outcome. It really is just bombs away. And more the point, if the ball falls and gets nodded forward, then they're probably going to win it, and then they're going to attack, and then they're going to turn what was effectively an attacking opportunity for us into an attacking opportunity where they got lots of space. So they're going to have a 4-on-4, or probably almost a 4-on-3 because they got pace out wide. They'll pass around Griggsy. I just think we need to respect the ball better and be more creative in attack. If we're closer, such that Zachy can generate a genuinely attacking kick, I'm all for it. Boys, that's my review for the Ipswich game. I do have individual feedback for some of you, which I'll be sending out. Look, as a general rule, the individual feedback I send out is a little bit it's generally stuff that's a little bit not harsh. Harsh is the right word, but it's more negative feedback, which I don't think is appropriate to deliver in front of the group. Um, but look, starting Tuesday, well, obviously you boys are in on Monday, and then Tuesday we start our run. We're back in the saddle. We have the gap on Sunday. I would point out, I think Sanford's beaten them 5-1. I've been tracking the score through Trevor. So 5-1 win. That's a benchmark. First of all, we don't want to concede. Okay, we want to keep a clean sheet, and then we want to try to execute our attack and get some goals. I would have liked to have got more goals against Ipswich, but it just wasn't possible for a few reasons. All right, boys. Cheers.